Hi listeners and light workers. Today I have received a dictation from Archangel Gabriel, as well as one from Archangel Uriel, and these are statements word for word, as usual, by telepathic communication. Before getting a dictation from an archangel, an ascended being, or a being of higher dimensions, I have to do some prayers and decrees. It has been explained why in some previous videos, so I won't go into that now, and I think you will find the invocation for a reversing of the tide interesting. It will be given at the end of this video. I must tell you that the archangels sometimes use terms that are technical, and the meaning of which I am not sure about. And today Archangel Gabriel started his dictation with the words,
in the nomenclature of the United States of America.
Excuse my ignorance, but I was not sure I even had the spelling right and that I had heard properly at first, despite the fact I did study something about the Constitution at university years ago. I had to consult dictionary.com, but for a minute I doubted myself and thought I'd better make sure such a word relates to the Constitution. It could have been French for all I knew. Well, the definition of nomenclature is that it is a noun related to the system of fundamental principles according to which a nation, state, corporation, or the like, is governed. It's also the document embodying these principles, and relates to the Constitution of the United States. In addition, the first paragraph of this dictation makes a statement that I cannot verify, but as I have checked the term nomenclature, I trust I have heard it correctly. With regard to Archangel Gabriel's dictation, it is short, and the reason for giving it was that yesterday I was watching a video with an interview of Dr. Shiva by Franchi, on the subject of fraud being carried out in elections. Dr. Shiva is a scientist, engineer, and PhD in biological engineering, who holds 4 degrees from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was a candidate for the U.S. Senate of the state of Massachusetts and has been locked out of his Twitter account. I will give you a clip from that interview so you have a better idea of what I am referring to.
Crisis that he personally uncovered as a candidate for the United States Senate from the state of Massachusetts. Now, the grand threat here is that when any one of us, a hardworking person, a working class patriot, comes from the bottom up, the deep state can literally flip a switch and manipulate the outcome of the election. The candidate and literal inventor of email, he holds 4 MIT degrees. He'll be joining me momentarily, but first let's watch the reaction of the Massachusetts state officials when Dr. Shiva files his FOIA request for ballot images to the Secretary of State's office. Now, I want you to keep in mind, federal law requires states to keep a copy for 22 months of each ballot after the vote is cast. Watch the reaction.
Yeah, so this is an information request.
Okay.
So I thought I'd drop it off. My counsel said to do it here. If you could just give me a receipt that you got it.
Yeah, sure. You want like a time stamp?
Yeah, if you can stamp it and then give me a copy.
Here's your timestamp copy.
Okay.
I mean, and just glancing at this, I don't think we took any pictures of any ballots. That's the whole thing. Well, here, you know what? Forget it. Don't forget what I said. We're just going to reply to you in writing, okay?
Yeah. So I know the electronic systems have the ballot images.
I don't believe so. But...
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, the debold AccuVote electronic systems, and not all of them. 51 places you guys do them by hand. The other 200 places they do them with the AccuVote systems.
I mean,
would save the ballot images. Yeah.
I don't believe that's correct. I don't believe they're saved. I think we turned any features like that off. I don't believe that we're going to be able to provide you with any of these records. I mean, what are you getting at, man? I don't want to be disrespectful, but what are you getting at? There was no recount.
I don't think
things rigged.
The fact itself, when I've shared this with anyone who's a software engineer, they go, what is going on in this country? That means it's not one person, one vote. It's not you're giving a candidate one vote. Could be, but in that tabulation, if that weighted race feature is on, the votes that you got could be multiplied by a decimal, and I could be multiplied by a decimal. That's why they store it as a decimal. And any programmer listening to this, they're probably dropping their jaws right now. Why are votes stored as decimals, not as integers? So what I want to tell the president is what I've discovered is crossing multiple disciplines: engineering systems, math, and computer science. And I've had to do the dirty job and had to go through this to get here. What I'm telling you is that Massachusetts is committing election fraud. And the United States Department of Justice needs to start indicting people now. And I would suggest to the president that no votes, unless they're hand counted, can be even taken seriously anymore. They can't be, because they can flip the switch.
Dr.
That's
Shiva,
really the hand.
I have a great fear as to the day after the election, November 4th, when you have all these states that still haven't reached an outcome because you have all these outstanding mail-in ballots. If you recall back in 2000, when you had Florida, the hand recount, the hanging chads, it was like one county in Florida. And I'll never forget the picture of the guy looking up at the ballot and his eyeballs bugging out. That was just one county holding up the whole state. Now, what happens if we have 50 states that don't have outcomes on November 4th?
Well, Gary, that's why when you look at this, and if you look at what they did to my election, the swamp also gets smarter, right? The swamp learned from the Bush-Gore thing. So in my view, what their goal is to do is to make landslides. You see? So then they can say, look, you lost by such a big amount. What are you talking about? You say?
Interesting.
So
interesting. Yeah.
You see, they don't want it to be close because they could have a revolution on their hands in this country. What they are going to try to do, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is to try to make it a big, big difference.
So what follows is Archangel Gabriel's dictation.
Yes, it is Archangel Gabriel. Dear Christine, dear ones, in the nomenclature of the United States of America there is the dispensation of a document that specifies there should not be any infraction to the safe routine in regards the way the counting of the votes is carried out. The reason that this fraud is allowed is that the infiltration of darkness has reached a proportion beyond repair. The omission to execute the program in a safe way has culminated with an impossible situation, and it is that the dark ones of the deep state have found a way to take back, or restart, their domination. Your experience with words is deficient in this area, but it is a way to show you the origin of the message is from beyond what you can conceive.
In the next sentence I was hearing,
My dear Christine, this is Archangel Uriel now. I would like to explain what our friend, Archangel Gabriel, has said to you. There is a war taking place for us in heaven and for all of you on your earth, call it a plane or a realm. It is the final battle that has been waited for by many, an Armageddon of the psyche, but it goes beyond that with the strategies of darkness that you have attempted to encapsulate in a few words and the invocation before your decree. You have said that the problem is to do with the ability that the dark force, you also call deep state, has to manipulate the data of any election so the votes are counted in decimals, which means, in the end, there is not one vote per person. Also they are able to fool the voters because they think that everybody else must have been voting for the candidate that gets selected in this fraud that they are able to carry out, and so, in reality everybody thinks a senator has been elected by the people when the system permits there to be more votes than the actual amount of people who voted. Yes, that is what Dr. Shiva has exposed. The other problem that you are asking us to take control over, and to reverse the tide, is the fact that the president has been tested and found to be positive. The amount of time you have heard it said he will be in isolation is 10 days. So certain researchers have given this a significance of 10 days of biblical darkness. You could call them that indeed. As Jennifer Snell said, Saint Germain is working through Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, to restore order. This same message is in your early videos published in 2016. The plan is unfolding despite the way it looks at the moment. There is no danger for the president as far as his health is concerned. Soon, you will discover that he has had but mild symptoms of the disease. You have done a lot of research and understand the situation very well with regard to the deception that those dark forces are able to carry out. So you will compose a new decree and ask us to take control of that situation, which you will define, and ask us to reverse the tide of that onslaught that is a real abomination in the way it has designs of conquest and the intention to aggressively acquire power. There will be a twist in this affair which will be revealed in the turns of events very soon. Our America will not be ruled by a regime of darkness, and will not experience a dictatorship. Its constitution is designed to avoid that, and the criminals who are attempting a coup and collapse in a unilateral way into total corruption will not gain any victory of any sort to that effect. The stars and the firmament are in certain configurations in 2020 that can expose the extent to which a manipulation for power is at work. But they are indicating conflicts in the psyche of mankind, not causing them. At the same time, the forces involved are used in the material world as they somehow open portals to the choices that become the metal or the testing for souls in incarnation. But it is the light of God that souls use for right and wrong. They use or misuse the light that descends from the I Am Presence in all the choices they make. In history there is more misuse of course, than righteous use of the life given to man, but it is balanced by the souls of light, how they live, and serve, and through their prayers which give us the possibility for interventions. This month of October and even November, is a very auspicious time. And that means it is a very bad time in a sense is that you will see an upheaval that is expected to be as significant and dramatic as the apocalyptic events of the book of Revelation, and at the same time it will result with a positive outcome, because it will be the beginning of the end of evil. We will take control of the situation and reverse the tide of these abominations that you will name in the new decree that you have already conceived in your mind, following the pattern of the reverse the tide invocation of the Summit Lighthouse. We have already gone into action following a dispensation received just after you recited your long invocation and decrees before I started this dictation. Many light-bearers are joining and uniting in this activity, all around the world, in their own way, and we, the Archangels, and all sections of heaven, respond as we are given authority to intervene by this method. And the wisdom of the Almighty surpasses the systems that the Dark Ones possess in this battle. The protection will be greater than the attacks, and it is necessary that the overcoming is carried out from the place of incarnation, where there is the entanglement of the psyche and the belief in those false concepts, histories, and narratives that are only used and invented by an activity of the carnal mind to control minds for power. So, you need liberation from this bondage, but do not forget, dear ones, that in the age of Aquarius is the liberating force of change. Although I cannot disclose much more, I would like to say, dear ones, that we will have a victory at the end of this year.
In the name of the most beloved, mighty and victorious presence of God, the I Am in all of us, the silent watcher for the earth realm, Lord Sennakumra, the Lord of the world, Lord Gautama Buddha, the seven mighty Elohim, mighty archangels, and Chohans of the rays, Archangel Michael and the cosmic order of Melchizedek, the spiritual hierarchy of this system of worlds, the universal Christ and Master Jesus, the legions of Surya, the legions of the first ray of God's will, serving under the banner of Lord Maitreya, the World Mother and Sirius, the Galactic Federation of Light and our higher dimensional family of light, elemental life, fire, air, water and earth. We decree and ask, take dominion now over all distortions of world freedom as well as the tide of political aggression and division by the Illuminati, the deep state, the evil pyramid of control, the sons of darkness as known in the Dead Sea Scrolls, together with their programs of a new world order, or order out of chaos, for an agenda of political takeover that bypasses the will and democratic rights of the people. Take control over the incarnation of the Nephilim, or fallen ones, Luciferians or satanic beings from any origin, the godless ones and how they infiltrate, or work under the cover of deceptive names, such as Antifa and the Extinction Movement, or through the dragon of world communism, with their causes and course. Reverse the tide. Reverse the tide. Reverse the tide. Roll them back. Roll them back. Roll them back. Reverse the tide. Reverse the tide. Reverse the tide. Take that command. Roll them back. Roll them back. Roll them back. Set all free. Reverse the tide. Replace it all by the principles of liberty, for the plan for this age is drawn by Saint Germain. Take dominion now over all agenda of deception to create chaos and affect the economy, manifesting disasters to impose a police state of control masquerading as a solution to a crisis. Expose and take control of all deceptions and false narratives, or aggressive censoring, or imposition of a penalty depriving people of their systems of communication, or the weaponization of information for political propaganda. Most of all, take dominion over the fraudulent and abominable deceptive system of vote counting by decimals, used to win an election by a landslide by this method, with phantom votes that exceed the actual number of persons that have cast a vote. Take dominion now over this strategy of darkness that is anti-democratic because it amounts to more than one vote per person and is a fraud. Expose the lie. Expose the lie. Expose the lie. Disclose the truth. Close in upon it all and transmute it all, cause effect records and memory, and replace it all right now by the sacred love of the sacred fire. Beings of light from heaven's height. We now demand, we do command, dissolve that war its cause and core, so hate and violence be no more. O Archangel Uriel, we are calling to you to place with us the bliss radiance of your electronic presence so we can be a magnet, by the sacred fire of your heart, for you to sweep into the world the enlightenment of your ray and a great illumination. We are grateful for your intervention and for multiplying by 10 our calls. And in great faith our calls are answered, we accept this done in full power.